one's called Can Attitude Affect Your Healing? And this was the statement that really challenged me. And it says this: sickness of the mind prevails everywhere. 9/10 of the diseases from which men suffer have their foundation here. You know, I'm writing little booklets right now. I'm doing a library series on little booklets. Remember the Joe Cruz, the Doug Batchelor little booklets? And I just finished one called A Diet of the Most Simple Kind. And I just did another one called The Power of Prayer and Fasting. And the third one I'm doing is How Attitude Affects Your Health. And as I'm doing that research and I'm looking at this, it's amazing that the doctors are even saying that in the case of stress, that it can affect 60 to 90% of people. So there's that 90% again I saw. But that's a powerful statement. And this says that 9 out of 10 people, that what's ailing them, it could have the origin in the mind. Now I said, nah, no way. There's no way 90% of the people are going to be suffering with their problems. So imagine, here I am at Bella Vita Lifestyle Center. The new 10 people come through the door. And they're sitting there around the table during orientation. And during orientation, I'm explaining how they're going to take this formula to cleanse the bowel. They're going to take this formula to cleanse the liver. And tomorrow I'm going to show you all that. And how they're taking this formula to cleanse and regenerate the kidneys. And we start showing them this formula that's going to cleanse and detoxify the bloodstream and the lymphatic system. And I'm sitting there while I'm telling everybody this, looking in their faces. Because you can learn a lot about a person by looking in their face. In fact, doctors didn't have all those high-tech machines years ago, and they would look at their patient, and they would study their patient. Now, let me just give you an illustration. If I'm looking at a person, I see acne on his face. That's an indication something isn't right, right? If you have gritty eyelids, that's a vitamin B2 deficiency. You can have cracks in the corners of your mouth. That can be a vitamin B deficiency or a vitamin A toxicity. You can look at someone's tongue, and a bright tongue is going to show B complex, niacin deficiency, fissures on the sides of the tongues, cracks in the tongue. You can study somebody's hair. Is it dull and lifeless, or is it shining and, you know, just looks healthy? So you can look at people's eyes, you can look at their ears, you can look at their mouth, you can look at their teeth, you can look at their tongue, you can look at their complexion, you can look at the joy in their face or the sadness in their face. Many people are wearing masks. And so while they're sitting there and I'm telling them about all these different formulas we're going to be used for cleansing and detoxification and regeneration, I'm studying their faces because I know that 9/10 of them that are sitting there, maybe 90%, that it's not the fact that they're not exercising, that they have this autoimmune disease. They have lupus. They have fibromyalgia symptoms. They have rheumatoid arthritis. And so I'll sit there and I'll look at the people and I'll say, what's her story? And we do a protocol at Bella Vita called a cold sheet treatment that some of you saw in the presentation last night, where we take the person and put them in a hot bathtub made of tea with cayenne, ginger, and mustard powder. And it's not only hot water for a fever bath, but it's hot herbs that are also going to heat them up internally, externally, and internally. And then we give them herbs to take internally. That's going to heat them up even more. And the point is to deliberately create an artificial fever in there to produce more white blood cells and stimulate an immune response. Isn't that cool? But what happens when I do this program is I take them out of the bathtub, I put an ice cold sheet around them that's been in ice water, and I walk them over into the massage room. We lay them down on a bed, cover them with 3 blankets, hydrate them, check their temperature, check their pulse, and then we sit down to talk. And what happens in that cold sheet treatment, you would not believe. There is an emotional purging where I have had a pastor of a church, nice guy, sitting there in a cold sheet treatment, and all of a sudden he blurts out, he murdered somebody. He slit his throat when he was in a gang with a razor blade. And then he goes, what did I tell you that for? I've told nobody. I've had a woman who was raped repeatedly by her father, holding a pillow over her head. She was 10 years old. She was pregnated. And her mother's embarrassed and tries to drown her in a bathtub. So when these people come with their rheumatoid arthritis, perhaps they have lupus, perhaps they have fibromyalgia, perhaps they have cancer. And I'm showing them that your disease, your autoimmune disease, could be connected to the pain and the damage that you've experienced in your life that's repressed. And those repressed emotions may be the root cause of your physical malady, your physical disease. So when I think I've heard the worst story, I hear one worse. And I want to tell you, when you do a lifestyle center like this and you do a protocol like the cold sheet treatment, which I learned from Dr. Richard Schultz, that's where I was first exposed to it, that you learn that we're in this human condition of sin. And it's a lot of evil out there, a lot of pain. Let me give you an illustration. In 2003, my mother, who I loved dearly, the greatest mother I think a person could have. That's the way I looked at my mom. We had a great relationship. Well, she had rheumatic fever, she had a heart murmur, she had tuberculosis when she was 15 in the lung, and at 79, she's wearing out because she's taking care of her 99-year-old mother and my father, who's wearing out. And her life force could not maintain the amount of demand and pressure that was upon her. And so she started breaking down. So what do you think is going to get hit? When your body begins to drain its life electrical charge, life force or vital force, they're synonymous. Life force, vital force, electrical current of the body is depleted. It's running down like a battery going dead. Your weakest organ may get it first. So her lungs got hit. And so my mother dies in 2003. 3 months later, on her birthday, my grandmother dies at 100, who says, I'm going to die on your mom's birthday. She did. Few months later, my youngest child's molested by my best Christian friend. My wife leaves me of 23 years with 5 kids and leaves the Lord and the faith. And my father dies. That's what I went through. And I want to tell you this, and I usually don't tell you all this at the beginning. I tell you this during the presentation, but for some reason I'm telling you now. I understand your pain. Through those experiences, God broadened my ministry to where I can identify with people's pain. When you say your mother just died, I know what that feels like. When your child was molested, I know what that feels like. If your wife just left you and you're going through a divorce, I know what that feels like. And through this, I realize that we're all going through this journey of life, and we're in a broken condition. And we can't walk on water right now, but we need someone who can. And we need help. We need help emotionally, we need help physically, and we need help spiritually. And I think you're in the right place today. Because I want to tell you, I'm sorry for your pain. I'm sorry for what you're going through in life. But here's what I learned from it. I got to the place where I said some very profound spiritual words to the Lord. And you know what they were? They were these. Lord, do not take this away, this trial yet. I like what I'm becoming. Now, what that means is that we are perfected through suffering. And it's at that place that you start really scrutinizing your life. And I ran to the Lord and I said, Jesus, I'm running and jumping on your back. I'm going to wrap my arms around your neck, and I'm not letting go no matter where this ride takes me. I had a choice. I could have said, you know what? You're not there. I don't need you. I'm going atheist. Or I could sit there and run to him and see that he's a God of love. And he's there to help me, and he did. He helped me. And through this, remember a principle that's in the Bible in Romans 8:28, that all things work together for good to those that love God and are called according to his purpose. So through my suffering, through my trials, through my loss, I'm now able to bless and help many people that are going through similar things. And the cold sheet treatment is an awesome remedy that is very highly effective. Very highly effective. I have seen people, I have had a top Christian psychologist from Minneapolis come to Bella Vita, and he's doing the cold sheet treatment, and all of a sudden he starts blurting out some stuff about his feelings that are suppressed against his father. And he said to me, you know, I layer the onions in people's lives to get to the root. How'd you get to my root so fast? We've been in here 1 hour. How'd you do that? And I said, it's the Holy Spirit. It's the power of God. But that's the deal. You know, your life, your pain, your suffering. We got these layers, you know, where we self-protect. That's another issue we do. I do that. I can be narcissistic. I can be egotistical. I can self-protect. I can react, you know. And the way we react is based upon our experiences of life. Our damage, our story. So somebody says something, they don't know what they said, anything wrong, but what are you reacting like that for? Because it hit a button. It hit a pain button. And this is what I'm talking about today, that we all have these emotional challenges and these areas where we have suffered pain and rejection and neglect, and we're harboring bitterness and anger. And if you don't clean it up, if you don't clean up yourself, guess what? You're going to get the disease. If you can't forgive somebody who hurt you 20 years ago, they're not suffering because of it. You will get the cancer. Because you must forgive and let it go, or you are going to get ill. So when the people come and I'm doing orientation and I'm going around the room and I'm sitting there looking at their diseases, environmental illness, wow. Rheumatoid arthritis, wow. Okay, cancer, wow. Cancer again, breast cancer. Amazing. And I sit there and I say, well, maybe she's not juicing enough. Oh, maybe she's eating too much meat. I now look and say, what's her story? And the cold sheet treatment is where I find out. Many times I'll find out in that cold sheet treatment. I had one lady come in and she says, you know what? I said, you know, how's your relationship with your mom and your dad? And she goes, oh, you know, my dad died when I was young, and I never really knew my mother. She gave me up, and my grandmother raised me. And I said, so how's your relationship with your grandmother when you were young? And she says, oh, it's fine. And so we do the cold sheet bath. And we put the cold sheet around her. And then we walk her over to the bed, and we lay her down on the bed. And I said to her, so tell me a little bit more about your relationship with your grandmother. I hate my grandmother. I hate her. She molested me for years. And I went, whoa. And she goes, where'd that come from? And I said, deep. It came from deep within you. All right? And I watched this happen. And I don't know if it's the hot herbs and that hot bathtub, or it's that hyssop and that yarrow that they're drinking internally. I don't know if it's that cold sheet or the Holy Spirit that resides in the room where we bring them out and lay them down and pray over them and anoint them and talk to them. But many times, I'll tell you that I see a pattern. And you know what the pattern is? You don't have to go much further beyond how's your relationship with mom and how's your relationship with dad. Because we all have been hurt. You know? But the good news is that we can forgive. The good news is that we can redeem the time. The good news is I can't go back and undo what I may have done to my ex-wife, but I certainly can treat her with respect and kindness today and forgive her. You see what I'm saying? So what we do today can help heal yesterday. You can't go back. So let's study just a minute here. I want to show you something. This is neuroimmunology. This is a book that I read that said, mind is healer, mind is slayer. Isn't that a powerful thought? Mind is healer, mind is slayer. And it's showing the inextricable interaction between the mind and the body at the heart of health and the heart of death. But watch this. It's a study of interactions of emotions and behavior and how they affect the endocrine and the immune system. In other words, these systems communicate with each other. Our psychological state, the way we choose to respond to stress in our individual lives, creates a central nervous system response, which is electrical, an endocrine response, which is hormonal, a behavior change, and this may result in an immune system change that causes disease susceptibility. And in 1981, using special fluorescent stains to trace nerves of various bodily locations, including bone marrow, lymph nodes, and the spleen, the Felton team had discovered a network of nerves leading to blood vessels as well as immune cells. So the researchers found nerves in the thymus, the spleen, terminating near clusters of lymphocytes, macrophages, mast cells, all of which control the immune function. And there it was, the mind-body connection, clear evidence that the brain has the ability to send signals to immune cells. So this is just a drawing that's showing when a person's confronted by an angry animal or an angry dog, that this neurogenic humoral reaction set forth. The heart beats faster, the breathing changes, the skin tightens, you're ready for fight or flight. So there's this communication that happens rapidly with our mind through the spinal cord, like telegraph wires to every nerve in the body. So when we become sick, we begin to ask why. And the most common response is to blame God, someone else, something else for our suffering. We must consider that not only our wrong lifestyle practices but our negative attitudes and thoughts and emotions also play a major role in sickness and disease. Look at this statement. Research has demonstrated that just 6 minutes of a negative emotion can suppress the immune system for more than 21 hours. Well, think of that. Think about harboring a negative emotion for hours. For hours. You're rage. You're angry. You want to pay somebody back. So Dr. Felton showed that the nerve connections can influence the onset and course of cancer, infectious diseases, including retroviral diseases or infections, autoimmune diseases such as rheumatoid arthritis and age-related decline in the immune system. So say somebody comes to Bella Vita with rheumatoid arthritis. Well, there's osteo and there's rheumatoid. And osteo is directly with bone loss. Rheumatoid is autoimmune. I have seen people reverse rheumatoid arthritis very quickly. One of the best ways to reverse rheumatoid arthritis is to go on a fast. You can go on a water fast or a juice fast. I would recommend with somebody a high potassium intake, lots of celery because it's high in organic sodium that's very beneficial to joints and whatnot, but it's an inflammatory response. I ate some at lunch. I'm very sensitive to certain foods, and my vocal cords responded to what I ate. They swelled up. My voice was gone. And I said to Heidi, I said, what was in that vegan... that one said gluten-free, but there's another one that had this like a Miracle Whip on top of this dessert she made me, and she said, oh, it's a vegan whipped cream type thing. It's vegan. And so I said, okay, I like to read ingredients, and I ate it, and I had a reaction. So I said, quickly, run and get me some chopped ginger. Ginger is anti-inflammatory. Ginger has 180 times more protein digestibility than the legendary papaya. Ginger will help prostate cells from proliferating. Ginger is a powerful, powerful herb that helps with indigestion, morning sickness. Somebody who's having, is pregnant and having, nausea. And so it's great as an anti-inflammatory. So this brother says, I got some cayenne tincture. I said, give it to me. I squirted it down my throat, and I ate the ginger, and I got my voice back. All right, so it relaxes vocal cords, and I read where singers will use ginger, to help relax and help any inflammation or swelling in the vocal cords before they go and sing. So with rheumatoid arthritis, I just want to say one of the biggest culprits for that from a physical standpoint is dairy products. I've had people with rheumatoid arthritis, I got them just off dairy, everything reversed. No dairy products, all right? Cut down on the animal foods. But again, we're talking about a mind connection. So in 1974, a colleague, Dr. Robert Adder, an experiment psychologist, said diabetes. Now we know fat and sugar is going to cause diabetes. Traditionally considered to be a disease of the endocrine system, is now looked as an autoimmune disorder, an immune system attacking itself. All right? So people are coming into Bella Vita with all these diseases. Okay, what's your problem? I have high blood pressure. What's your problem? I got heart disease. What's your problem? I have precancerous condition. What's your problem? I'm having tremendous hormonal problems, headaches, night sweats. I need to get on something to help me with my female because they want to do a hysterectomy on me. So all these people come with this dis-ease. The body's in a state of dis-ease. So what do we do at Bella Vita? I'll talk to you about it more tomorrow. We fast them for 5 days on just juices while we cleanse all the elimination organs. And I'll tell you what, here's one illustration. A guy comes in with diabetes, neuropathy in his feet. He feels like he's got knives in his feet. He can't even walk. He's sitting there in my waiting room, and I'm seeing a woman, and I said, do you have an appointment? He says, no, I just drove her here. I'm not here to see you. And he kind of had an attitude. And so I said, well, your wife can come in now. Would you like to come and hear what I have to say? And he said, yeah, I'll come. This should be amusing, like I was some quack, So he gets out of the chair. He gets up out of the chair to come into my office, and he's coming like this. And I go, what's wrong with you, sport? He says, I got neuropathy in my feet so bad I can't even walk without pain. I'm on Vicodin. And I said, so you're diabetic? Yeah, but I'm not taking their medication. Oh, okay. So he's sitting there. And he's got this little goatee. You'll see a picture of him. He drives a Testarossa Ferrari. And, he's just kind of the macho guy. And he says, so you're going to help my wife? And I said, yeah, like I could help you. And he goes, well, what do you mean you could help me? I said, I could get rid of your diabetes and your neuropathy in 10 days. And he went, what? And it must have been the Holy Spirit because I went, 5. And he goes, how much does it cost to come to your place? And I told him, he wrote me out a check right there and says, I'm putting you to the test. 5 days. In 4 days, he walked 4 miles. In 4 days. His pain subsided. He's lost 100 pounds as of today. No diabetes, no pain medication. And he goes around telling everybody, I can't believe it. You saved my life. You saved my life. All right? And I watch this happen all the time. So we fast them for 5 days, doing cleansing and elimination while giving them live foods only in the forms of juices, practicing the 8 laws of health. And I learned this statement in regards to natural healing. And it goes like this, that when you follow God's plan and you assist the body in cleansing and elimination, what needs to heal will heal. So if I got rheumatoid arthritis over here, I got somebody over here with neuropathy or somebody over here with high blood pressure or something, the same program works. Now I may customize it temporarily where I'll give this guy over here lipoic acid at 200 to 300 milligrams. It's going to help with neuropathy. Or somebody over here has got a lot of high blood pressure issues, so I'm giving them some extra magnesium to relax the arterial walls and relax it. I did 35 years. I did natural healing at health food stores, so I know what I'm doing with nutrients. I'm still not, I'm still learning. I'm always learning. But I want you guys to understand today that your body and your mind, your lifestyle habits and the way you think can both affect your immune function. It's that easy. So watch. Specific patterns of thoughts and behaviors are associated with certain diseases. In some types of cancer or PMS can be a specific bitterness. Autoimmune diseases can be associated with self-hatred. Think of that. An immune system that's gone haywire, that's attacking itself because you don't like yourself. I hate me. Well, then let's go kill you. And your immune system's responding. And now you got disease. So it says, as we attack ourselves with our own words, thoughts, or actions, we see a corresponding autoimmune response resulting in an autoimmune disease. In other words, certain negative emotions cause the body to produce specific antibodies that will only attack a specific organ or cell of the body. Isn't that crazy? So when I got the one on the cold sheet treatment that hates her grandmother, and she's sitting there with joint pain and inflammation, maybe irregular heart rhythms, maybe she's got advanced osteoporosis, I sit there and say, well, you know what? Let me get you in the gym and start juicing you some carrots and apples. I sit there and say, you need to forgive your grandma. You see that when you separate in medicine, you got a psychologist, you have a psychiatrist, you have an endocrinologist, you have a cardiologist, you have a podiatrist, you have a proctologist, you have your OBGYN, everything's separated. And in natural medicine, I learned something basic, that you want to go and create a healthy person. Because you can't compartmentalize everything out. Just create a healthy person. And the program that you go on with exercising and fresh air and eliminating these impurities of the body and choosing a difference in selection of food is going to give you that dense nutrition I spoke about yesterday that's going to balance your immune function, but it's also going to nourish your brain. Many people are suffering with depression and anxiety because they aren't getting the brain nutrients. So choline, methionine, all these B vitamins that we have are very critical for brain function. So if you're eating the processed garbage, watching the garbage movies, you're feeding yourself bits of information and nutrition that is not inducive to healing. It's only weakening you, all right? In other words, certain negative emotions cause the body to attack certain body organs. So through the years, we found that the following states of mind are injurious to the chemical and electrical balance of the body because of their emotional potential. Anger, discontent, unhappiness, overexcitement, hyperactivity, anxiety, fear, remorse, guilt, distrust, selfishness, sickness of the mind prevails everywhere. 9 out of 10 of the diseases from which men suffer have their foundation here. So Dr. John Diamond, MD, the co-author of Definitive Guide to Cancer, observes, repressed emotions, if not vented or expressed, will seek physical expression, such as functional bowel disease, fibromyalgia, or even cancer. And this is what I learned from Dr. Richard Schultz. He would say to me, as he's teaching his lessons, he would say, I would go to a person and I'd ask this question: how bad do you want to get well? Very bad. Will you do whatever I tell you? Yeah, I'll do whatever you tell me. He says, and there's hope for that person. He says, because there's 3 types of people I can't get well. It's their time to die, they get attention because they're sick, or they won't do what you tell them. I've had people come and I put them on programs for cancer, let's say, tumor shrinking. Now they go home, they call me up in 4 months and say, it's growing again. I said, well, are you taking your 13 juices a day, 1 every hour, on the hour, 8 ounces? No, I'm taking 4. Okay, and are you doing the cleansing elimination program that I taught you? No, I'm not doing that at all. Are you getting fresh air and exercise? No, I'm not. I said, so you're calling me up and telling me your tumor's growing and that whose program's not working? Yours. And that's when people come to me with cancer or their diseases. I say to them, your program isn't working. Can we try mine? Well, should I bring my bags of vitamins? No, because your program isn't working. So let's try mine. Okay. And they come and they begin to improve. And it's many times simple things I had a friend who opened a wellness center. And he says, I don't know half as much as you know, Danny, but they're starting to get well, the people that are coming. I go, well, what are you doing? He says, I told them to just quit eating. And I'm giving them a few juices. See, because it's what you're eating many times that's making you sick. It's what you're eating that's making you depressed. And if we can get you to stop eating your way and start eating God's way, you'll be surprised how much heals physically and mentally in your body. Depression is not a lack of Prozac. Depression is not a deficiency of Prozac. Headaches are not a deficiency of aspirin. So this is one of the favorite slides people see that I put up. The negative emotions on the left tend to affect the organs listed on the right. Anger, your liver. Bitterness, your gallbladder. Grief, you lost your husband, the heart. Sadness, the lungs. Vulnerability, feelings of abandonment, the small intestine. Inflexibility, defensiveness, the large intestine. Low self-esteem, feelings of rejection, the spleen, the pancreas. Fear and terror, the kidneys. Irritation, timidity, the bladder. Confusion, thyroid. Now let me show you how this works. I've been doing Bella Vita for 12 years, and I know this chart. And when somebody comes in with one of these diseases of some of these specific body organs, I think about these negative emotions on the left. And I'll give you a couple illustrations here. I had a guy who worked for me that wouldn't pay child support. He wouldn't call his children. He hated his 3 ex-wives. And one day he's laying on the ground and his abdomen's swollen out to here. And I go, what's going on? And he's urinating brown. And his liver was swollen. And I said, what's bothering you? And I said, when's the last time you called your daughter and told her you loved her? He goes, it's been years. I said, why don't you call her up? He says, well, maybe I should. It's her birthday today. Okay, so this is what happens. So the anger, even in the Bible, if you look in the King James Version in Lamentations 2:11, it talks about sorrow or grief, and it talks specifically and mentions the liver and the bowel. Okay? Anal retention. I mean, your emotions will affect certain body organs. I had a woman who came to Bella Vita, very, very tough case, and she died. But let me tell you the story. She had pancreatic and liver cancer. Either of those is a near-death sentence, right? She's 30-something years old, and she has 3 beautiful children. And she comes to Bella Vita, and I said, you know, I don't know what I can do for her. She's in a very advanced state. I don't want anyone dying here. But, she's okay. She's taking a little morphine. And I said, can she shower? Can she eat? Yeah, she's doing all those things. So when I got to Bella Vita, and here she was, she's standing there with an IV. She's on morphine. She can't eat anything. She weighs 90 pounds, and this woman doesn't have long to live. But sometimes God does not bring people to Bella Vita for physical healing. They're coming for spiritual healing. He wants to save them eternally. And that's another issue that I always take into consideration, that I don't know why they're there. I don't know truly if it's going to be a physical healing, a spiritual healing, or a mental healing. So this woman's mother and father came to Bella Vita to visit her. That night I was given this presentation, and I saw her mother crying. And after the presentation, she said, Danny, can I speak with you privately? And I said, sure. And she pulled me aside, and you know what she said? She says, she's crying. What's wrong? She goes, my poor daughter in there. I know. I said, it's a sad case. She says, no, you don't know the story. My husband was an alcoholic, and he beat me really good. And I took it out on my kids, and I beat her really good. I beat her a lot. Now, if you're beating a child, that child's going to, what? Rejection, right? And low self-esteem. Now, let's just look at this again. low self-esteem, feelings of rejection, the pancreas. She has pancreatic cancer. So then I couldn't get food down her. You can't get any food down this woman. So I'm trying desperately. Juice. She can't drink juice. Give it to her in an enema bag. Get some nutrients in her now. She's going to die. Let's try. Anything. Carrot juice, celery juice, electrolytes, magnesium, potassium, sodium. Let's try to get something in her. And so I said, put a towel over her, a blanket. I want to go in the bathroom and I want to talk to her. And I got down on the ground and I looked her right in the face. And I said to her, have you forgiven your father? And she said, yeah, I think I have. I said, have you forgiven your mother? She said, no. She beat me really good and I'm very angry at her. And I said, do you know Jesus? And she said, I know Mary. And I said, I was Roman Catholic, for 30-something years. And I said many, many Hail Marys. I said, but do you know Jesus? And she said, no. So I opened my Bible to Isaiah 53, and I read her this. And listen to the emotional connection here, okay? He is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief. We hid, as it were, our faces from him. He was despised. He was wounded for our transgression. He carried our sorrows. He bore our griefs. That's a lot of emotional healing that we can receive from Jesus. Isn't that powerful? So he heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. He doesn't just forgive us for the sins that we commit in our life or help us with our infirmities. He helps you emotionally. That's a powerful point. And so I said to her, why don't you pray to Jesus and ask him to help you with your emotional healing? And she says, how do you pray to him? Well, it's not Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. I said, talk to him as a friend. Not just reciting some prayer repetitiously. Talk to him as you would a friend. Tell him that you're hurting inside. Tell him you're angry with your mom. Tell him you need his help. And so I left and I came back that afternoon, and you know what? They said she's in her bedroom and she wants to talk to you. And I went into the bedroom and she says, Danny, I've been talking to Jesus all day long. All day long I've been talking to Jesus. And I said, fabulous. That's absolutely beautiful. And then I was worried that she's not going to make it. I mean, really, we could not get any food in her anyway. And I saw she was going down fast. And I asked the Lord, I don't want to discourage this lady, but how do I get her to maybe go back home? Because I don't want her to die in front of everyone here. It's not going to be healthy. It could be pretty emotionally taxing. And so God worked a miracle. I came back to Bella Vita, and they said, she wants to talk to you. And I walked in the room, and you know what she said to me? She said, Danny, can I ask you a favor? I go, what? Can I go home? It's my daughter's birthday tomorrow. And I said, I think it can be worked out, And so she left. But she said this before she left. I'll never forget you. Thank you for taking the time of teaching me how to pray and giving me hope. Thank you for pointing me to Jesus. And then her mother called me up several weeks later and said, she passed away. And I was waiting to hear her say, you didn't do any good for my daughter. I gave you money to help heal her and nothing happened. It was the opposite. She called me up and said, I can't thank you enough. I'm going to recommend Bella Vita to everybody. I want you to know this, that my daughter found salvation at Bella Vita. She found Jesus and she forgave me. She forgave me before she died, and I forgave her. Isn't that a happy ending? See, so that woman didn't make it physically, but she may have made it eternally. eternally. And that's the bigger issue. When I get somebody at Bella Vita, we're all going to die, but we can live eternally. And it's our choice. This is just a temporary journey. I don't want to miss the big one. And that's what I want people to always understand. But there's a definite relationship that exists between the mind and the body, and it's very intimate. When one is affected, the other sympathizes. The condition of the mind affects the health to a far greater degree than many realize. Many of the diseases from which men suffer are the result of mental depression, grief, anxiety, discontent, remorse, guilt, distrust. What does it do? It breaks down the life forces and invites decay and death. So now you have a physical ailment, you go to the doctor, and he's giving you drug medication to take away the pain when the pain is in your head. The body is a barometer. It's just responding with symptom. But just to put out the fire of the symptom doesn't heal a thing. You know, I give an illustration that we were driving through the mountains and we had a number of people in the car, and the car was becoming overheated. And there was steam coming out of the engine. So we pull over on the side, and this guy gets out of the car and he says, you know what? No, I got out of the car to go open the hood to look for the broken radiator hose. And he says, I can fix it. And the red light's flashing on the dashboard. Hot, hot. So he gets in the glove box and he fishes around and he pulls out a pair of wire cutters. And he gets under the dashboard and he finds the wire to the dashboard that says hot. And he clips it and the light goes off and he says it's fixed. That's aspirin. That's drugs. You're killing the warning. See, here's from natural medicine. When I see joint pain, headache, inflammation, arthritic conditions, that is a body that's saying hot. Something's going haywire. Pay attention and help me balance. Doctors write prescriptions, give you toxic medications. They put out the fire and they create new ones. And the problem on this is, too, that drug medications do a dual drain on your life force. Not only is the body dealing with the disease, it's now dealing with the side effect of the pharmaceutical concoction that's poisoning your liver. So you got a double drain of life force. So what natural medicine, what you want to do is ascertain the cause ascertain the cause of why you are having this effect. So to truly heal a person, remove the cause. So if somebody comes to me with a headache, I don't write you out a prescription for some Vicodin. I sit there and say, are you drinking enough water? Do you have any food allergies? Have you been under tremendous stress? Have you had any, a car wreck, a fall? You know, the headache that you're having, is your liver toxic? And so I'll implement these areas to rebalance, which we call homeostasis, to rebalance the body rather than just try to kill the warning signals. That's wrong. It's not healing. That's a Band-Aid. See? Let's move on here. Let's look what the Bible says in regards to attitude and your immune system. Fair enough? Okay, the heart of the immune system is your bone marrow. This is where a lot of your immune cells are manufactured. So the Bible says a sound heart is the life of the flesh, but envy the rottenness of your bones. That's an emotion affecting the immune system. A merry heart does good like a medicine, but a broken spirit dries the bones. There's a sad spirit, depressed, or a happy spirit works as a healer. Which one here? For my life is spent with grief and my years with sighing. My strength fails because of my iniquity, and my bones are consumed. Pleasant words are as a honeycomb, sweet to the soul, health to the bones. The light of the eyes rejoices the heart, and a good report makes the bones fat. So there's excellent evidence, Michael, like this, that negative emotions, such as depression and anxiety, enhance the production of pro-inflammatory cytokines, including interleukin-6. Pro-inflammatory cytokines are hormonal components that create inflammation, swelling in many parts of the body. So inflammation has recently been linked to cardiovascular disease, osteoporosis, arthritis, type 2 diabetes, certain cancers, including multiple myelomas, non-Hodgkin's, leukemia, Alzheimer's disease, and periodontal disease. So what's happening? You know what's happening? We are so out of balance. Now we're eating this predominant acid-forming diet that's inflammatory. And we can eat an anti-inflammatory diet by selecting foods. Do you know what? This product, ginger, you know what? 500 different plant constituents. It is a natural COX-2 inhibitor. It's beyond Vioxx and Celebrex because they work in synergy. They have to be synergistic. That means you can't isolate one compound, make a pharmaceutical drug on it because it gets a response, but you don't fool nature completely because the body then compensates another way. And one author says that all you do is drive the disease deeper into the body and it will later manifest itself as something worse. So what I use is whole plants that have anti-inflammatory properties: feverfew, holy basil, ginger, quercetin, bromelain, flax seeds. If you're having an inflammatory response, and I brought some natural remedies, that I use at Bella Vita, and I'll show you one right here that I love. Guess what it's called? Inflamarest. Inflammation. It's going to help you fight inflammation. And what does it say that's in here? Ginger root, turmeric, bromelain, quercetin, holy basil, everyone I just named off, magnesium, willow bark, feverfew, nattokinase, rosemary, and then it has other ingredients in here, and also antioxidant nutrients with calcium and 350 milligrams of magnesium. So, okay, I want to get an anti-inflammatory response, but I don't want to set them up with a drug from Merck and Dome or someone else that's going to cause a side effects and premature heart disease or heart attacks. The Premarin. Take it for what it's worth. You're extracting estrogen from a pregnant horse. Pre-mare, and you're injecting it or you're giving it to women to balance their hormones. So you're feeding them animal estrogen that upsets the delicate balance between estrogen, testosterone, and progesterone. And with the elevated estrogen, what Dr. John Lee coined estrogen dominance, it fuels cancer. It feeds cancer. So we're seeing increased cancer of the reproductive organs in women, in the mammary glands, and the prostate, and the urinary tracts of men. And so the test using the Premarin was cut short because it was causing heart disease and breast cancer in women. So you're helping their hot flashes, but the trade-off is cancer. That's drugs. You hear what I'm saying? But you got to just take responsibilities for yourself. I'm not discontinuing anybody's insulin till we get their blood sugar balanced. I'm not anti-drug in all circumstance. But what I'm saying is it's become wholesale. And you've depended on a false healing system that has nothing to do with healing, but only masking symptom. I watch True Healing all the time. I watch True Medicine all the time. I see the people heal. I've had in the last 13 years diabetics probably at every Bella Vita that I've done. I probably have had 80 diabetics, and I've seen 78 of them get off insulin. In 3 or 4 days, their blood sugar's normal. And let me just give you something profound. Okay, don't eat fruit, don't eat sugar, you know, you're diabetic. You know, here's one thing, I understand that point. I've done radio shows with MDs that teach alternatively on healing yourself and reversing diabetes. And one of them said, for every fruit you eat, walk a mile. You got to burn off that sugar. You got to, you know, you got to get exercise to do that. And then they'll tell you, you know, complex carbohydrate isn't the problem. It's not your oatmeal. Charmaine does chip programs and whatnot, and Hans Deal and Charlotte Gerson. They'll have diabetics eating potato. But we always want to blame the complex carbohydrates or these carbohydrates as the root cause. Refined carbohydrates are definitely contributing to diabetes and the refined sugars. But here's the profound thought. Their pancreas is in more trouble than the average person's because the pancreas is so deficient in enzymes. So the juices are more important for the diabetic to recharge and replenish their pancreas with live enzyme. So I don't give them high sugar vegetables or high sugar fruits, but I give them lots of greens. So I'm juicing dandelions, I'm juicing some spinach, I'm juicing chard, parsley, and then a little bit of carrot or apple for flavor. And if I want to keep the sugar down and give them an apple, then I give them a green apple, because a green apple has less sugar concentration than the red apple. So we're giving them these juices that are filled with live enzymes to recharge their pancreas. Chromium picolinate, necessary for the metabolism of sugar, can help balance. But with the exercise, the live food, the live juices, the greens, I see the diabetes balance in days. Days. And at the end of the program, in 9 days, they're eating strawberries and blueberries on fresh bananas run through a champion juicer to make ice cream, and their blood sugar levels are running at 85 the next morning because their pancreas is recharging. And they're eating whole foods in whole form. Okay? Just monitor your blood sugar levels and look at how you can balance your blood sugar levels naturally. This is showing you that, getting back to the mental again, the personality factors have been correlated with specific diseases. Rheumatoid arthritis has been correlated with perfectionism, compliance, subservience, nervousness, restlessness, reserve, and anger. Cardiovascular disease has been associated with the type A behavior, hostility, whether or not a person is a hot reactor. Cancer has been correlated with non-assertiveness, the inability to express emotion, and hopelessness. Depression is the emotional condition reputedly linked to cancer incidence, and such findings have been published in the Journal of the American Medical Association. Quick story. When I went through a bitter divorce 7 years ago, the mother of my 5 children left and chose a new way of living. It was very, very difficult. She wasn't the same person. It's like something just switched. And her mother was in deep despair. And she would say, "Danny, what can I do?" Now, her mother, years ago, was diagnosed with breast cancer. Okay? And at that time, I talked to her about alternative therapy. And she listened, and she listened, and she nodded, and she nodded, and she wouldn't do anything that I said, except she did drink one thing, Essiac tea. Essiac is an herbal formula that was reputedly used for alternative cancer treatment from Canada, and it was formulated by a nurse named Nurse Casey, and her name spelled backward was Essiac, and it's burdock and sheep sorrel and red clover and galangal and or some of these other herbs that are in there, and slippery on one of them, I remember. But anyway, she drank it. And she went to Stanford Medical Center and met with a number of MDs, and they were checking her out and having, consultations with her on her method of therapy. And they did another mammogram on her. And they came out of the room and they said, you know, Marcia, you did a mammogram 2 weeks ago, and we just did another one. What have you done different in 2 weeks? And she says, why? She was nervous to say that she had taken anything like a tea to help with her breast cancer. Well, here's what the doctor said. He says, your benign tumors, not her malignant, but her benign, had shrunk notably in 2 weeks. These tumors have shrunk. What have you done? And she says, well, I took some tea my brother-in-law, my son-in-law gave me. So she threw the tea in the garbage and she took chemotherapy. Now, see, here's the deal. You live a lifestyle and you get disease like cancer. So now you get chemotherapy and you don't change a thing. You just keep living the same lifestyle. The same food choices, the same stress, the same anxiety. And what's going to happen? It could come back. So during the time when she was stressed because of the divorce, she wanted to tell her daughter, what are you doing? Straighten out your life. You're choosing the wrong way. And she couldn't. She had the inability to express emotion. And guess what? 63 years old, breast cancer, bone cancer, liver cancer, lung cancer, all in 2 months, and she died. It came back in 3 major internal organs because of the inability to express emotion. So when you're holding it inside that you can't stand your husband or what he's doing to you, or he can't stand you, and you're holding it inside, I'm fine, I love you too, you know, I'd like to kill you. You know, and we walk around this way, repressing that emotion. Now you know a little bit more what it's doing to your immune system. So don't repress emotion. And women, let me tell you something. You know, I've learned a few things in life, and we do it wrong. Men speak head to heart instead of heart to heart. I mean, women want to be loved. They want to be nurtured. They want you to speak words to feed their heart and help them to heal. And, you know, we're not the best at it. You know, we fail. And I'm sorry. I do too. And then, you know, we self-protect. And you know, she needs to say she loves me before I'm going to tell her I love her, you know. And here we live together. And, you know, I heard this expression the other day, we live divorce and marriage. That's, you know, that's true for many of us. Divorce and marriage, you know, and so I'll tell you when we come back from the break that I did a radio show with a man who was an MD, an ND, and a chiropractor, and we did a show on emotions and cancer, and I had 3 appointments with women with breast cancer that week. But I'm going to tell you that after the break, what happened and how important it is for you to express your emotion. You need to let it out. If you lock it inside, it's going to find expression, whether it's functional bowel disease, cancer, or rheumatoid arthritis. You can't lock it up.